Salam alaikum and welcome to episode 6 of Football Focus UAE. Today we're inside the Emirates Club changing rooms. Now there's a bit of a buzz going on here at the moment. The Emirates Club have just reached the quarterfinals of the President's Cup and they're hoping they can repeat history back in 2010 when they won it. We'll just have to see what's going to happen. On today's show we're going to focus on relegation derbies, top of the table clashes, hopefully a player interview and lots more. Okay, over to the show.
Okay, thanks Ian for that lovely introduction in the changing room here at the Emirates Club in Ras Al Khaimah. So what we're going to do this week, we're going to look at week number 9. This is episode number 6 of Football Focus UAE. But first of all, we're going to look at the President's Cup because if you notice we've had a little bit of a break in the Pro League, haven't we, this weekend? So we're going to look at the results of the President's Cup and you can see the results here. First of all, Al Dhafra versus Al Jazeera. Surprise, surprise, Al Dhafra won 1-0. Shabab Al Athli versus Hatta, no surprise there, a 3-0 win for Shabab. Banyas versus Al Aruba, who are a first division side, did well to get this far. Banyas won 2-0. The Emirates Club, the surprise package of this President's Cup, won Kalba, who you think to me are the informed team at the moment, won 1-0 after extra time. Fujairah lost to Al Wasl at home. Al Watta lost to Al Nasser on a penalty. Al Ain lost to Ajman 1-0 and they're actually playing tonight in the Pro League. And Khor lost to the champions Al Sharjah. And what we'll do, we'll look at the President Cup each time a round is played. But this week we're going to look at week number, I think it's week 8 of what took place. We're going to look at Ajman versus Al Wasl, Fujairah versus Al Jazeera, Hatta versus Khor Sharjah versus Shabab Al Athli. And all this is here, as you can see. Al Watta versus Al Dhafra, Kalba versus Al Nasser, and Banyas versus Al Ain. And we've got a couple of local derbies in there as well. So without further ado, let's go to our first highlights, which Ian's going to look at and we're going to talk about is Ajman versus Al Wasl. And you know, I was at that game. I was commentating, Ian, and it was as I like to say, it was a cracking game. So let's look at the highlights and watch, okay? So what do you think, Ian? Interesting game. As I said, I was at the game. I was surprised how well Ajman did to get 2 goals. They had a chance to...
Yeah, it was a good game for the neutral. You know, going into that, you would say, you know, an Al Wasl comfortable win, 2-3-0, but it wasn't like that. Ajman actually, for the first time, and I've been, you know, hypercritical of them so far this season, actually impressed me. Going forward, they look good.
They did.
They had a decent game plan. They were well structured. They've got this guy up front, Boubacar Tawali, who looks a talent. I think he's on loan from Al Shabab from Saudi Arabia, and it looks so he's going to be a good signing. Again, the big problem is they still can't defend. Yeah. You know, they've managed to now start scoring goals, which is superb, but they're not going to win games.
They're leaking
they can't.
Goals.
They can't.
Like it's going out of fashion, really. Yeah.
And you know, Al Wasl have got some really good players. I think one player I would like to highlight is Ali Salah, who's on some really, really good form. And a bit of background knowledge about him. He was the youngest player ever to play in the Arabian Gulf League at 16. I think he played the day after his 16th birthday.
Wow.
Sponsored by Nike, so they obviously think highly of him.
Yeah.
And his mother is actually Scottish. So
yes,
I think the UAE needs to be very careful with him in case Scotland come calling because he's a player that could...
He looks tasty, really. He's on a good run at the moment, scoring nearly every game.
And he's dominating their forward line, which is really, really good. Just touching on the goals very, very quickly.
Ajman, what do you think about them goals? Yeah,
Ajman, as usual, the goals they've conceded, they're very reactive. They're not proactive. They're not alive to the situation. They don't read the game.
It was 3 goals in literally 3-4 minutes.
Yeah, and they need to be switched on. That's their biggest problem.
They just lost it.
Yeah, there's no focus. Again, they're struggling for leaders. I think going from the goalkeeper to the back 4, there's no leaders there. There's no one telling them what they need to be doing. But ultimately, as a player, you've got to take responsibility for what you're doing. You know your job as that defender is either to man mark, get tight, stop that ball going in the back of the net, and it's just not happening. You know, and I also scored some good goals. They did, but again, they could have been stopped with a little bit more of a little more nous in the defence. Ajman, like I said, going forward, Tawali looks a decent player. And they've scored a couple of good goals. Again, defensive mistakes here and there, but on the whole, it was a fair result. Ajman should be pleased the way they've performed, pleased they've scored 2 goals, but Al Wasl were always going to win the game.
They were, and they're managing to build a little bit of momentum now because they have got a good team. What about the manager, the Egyptian manager for Iceman? Do you think he's under a little bit of pressure? Because, I mean, they haven't won. They've only got 2 draws.
He's got to be, isn't
9
he?
games.
We've already seen casualties throughout the league. He's got to be walking a very fine line at the moment.
Yeah. What do you think? 1 or 2 losses away?
Well,
he's gone.
There was improvement. There was certainly improvement in this game going,
I saw that.
which was good. They had a good result in the cup, which I think will give him another 2 or 3 games.
Yeah. Good point.
But the problem is they're not a great team. You know, they haven't got the players that Al Jazeera have got, or who the other teams have got.
They need to pick it up. They need to get a couple of wins and get on a run or something.
Yeah. So
all right.
Watch this space.
All right. Thanks for that, Ian.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're going to look at our next match. Is a local derby, Al Wata versus Al Dhafra. So let's watch the highlights, Ian. Okay, I'm ready to go into it, Ian, if you're okay.
Yep.
All right, what do you think to that, Ian? Thought it was a little bit...
Yes.
For a local derby, you know what, Ian? I mean, we're from England, and when you get a local derby, you like to see a little bit of passion, a little bit of fire. I mean, you like to see some tackles going in there, but I didn't see any passion. No, I didn't see any. I just saw 2 cagey teams. They got a goal each. There were a couple of good chances. It could have gone either way, but to me, it was a fair result. But I was disappointed for a local derby.
We've touched on this before. I think we had a local derby a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. It was a Dubai derby, and again, there was just no bite. There was no needle. There was no passion.
Tell me, what is that? Is it a lack of local players, or maybe players from that area? What is it?
I think it does have a lot to do with no crowd. There's no one in the stadium, so it's very difficult to create an atmosphere.
That's a good point.
Quite often you'll have the fans going at each other. That will then transfer onto the pitch, and that can get people. You know, if there's a big tackle goes in, suddenly the fans get behind that. So I think that's a big thing. But like you said before, it's a football match. It's 3 points. You know, it shouldn't matter if it's a derby or not. You've got to be up for these games, and it needs to be better than that.
Yeah,
really.
I was disappointed. Yeah. I mean, when we look at the stats, Al Wata had 65% of the stats. They are a possession team. They do like to keep the ball, and they had more passes, nearly double what Al Dhafra. Obviously, Al Dhafra came and parked the bus, looking for that breakaway goal, which they got. Shots were roughly the same. Shots on target were roughly the same. Shots outside, shots inside the box. Again, it wasn't a lot, Ian. It wasn't a lot to write home about. It was disappointing. You know what? I commentated on the Ajman Al Wasl game. It was a great game to commentate, but I'm glad I wasn't at that game. Yeah. It's not like the local derby we're going to look at a little bit later against Banyas and Al Ain. No. I mean, that was a cracking derby. But without further ado, I think we'll move on to the next game, Ian, and that's let's look at the highlights. That's Fujairah versus Al Jazeera. Fujairah versus Al Jazeera. There's no surprises here. Let's watch the highlights and see. No surprise there. I mean, Al Jazeera are managing to put a run of games together. They've got the quality. They've got the players. Ali Mabkut's scoring again, like we expect him to. Tell us, Ian.
Yeah, well, he started off a little bit slowly, didn't he, at the start of the season, but he's just found his scoring boots now, and this was their 3rd win in a row, and they're looking like the team of old. They're looking like a team that can challenge Sharjah, which is great to see.
And it's something we need, Ian, because we don't want Sharjah dominating. We want Al Nasser, Sharjah, Al Wasl, Al Jazeera all up there, and Shabab Al Ahli.
Yeah, we want goals, we want close games, we want battles, and we want the league to be contested right to the end.
Yeah, we do.
And Al Jazeera look really good, like I said, the team of old. 2 players to look at, Kalfan Mubarak and Zayed Al-Miri, both really, really talented players that look really, really good. Fujairah, again, there was positive signs. I like the way Goran has got them set up, the manager. He wants them to play football. He wants them to play out the back. He wants them to get the ball down. He wants them to get them moving, which is great.
He did it well at Corfacan. He got them playing well at Corfacan.
Yeah, and it's good football. It's football you want to watch. The downside is it's got to be spot on. You've got to be clean. It's got to be precise. Temporary. You've got to be on it. And unfortunately,
and you need the quality players to do it. I think he lacks that as well.
And it showed in the first goal. First goal, they wanted to play out from the back, which is what they to do. the quality of pass across the 18-yard box wasn't good enough. The fullback to touch wasn't good enough. Yeah. Al Jazeera nicked it off him and scored the goal. So it was, in one way, it was nice to see them trying to do that, but you've got, like saying, you've got to have the players, you've got to be technically sound.
Punished. Al Jazeera have got the quality to punish you.
You just can't do that. Second and third goals for Al Jazeera, again, a lack of quality from Fujera, diving into tackles, not man marking, not picking players up. Players are allowed free space inside the box.
You can't do that.
And especially when you've got this sort of quality.
Maybe against Iceman, no offence or Hatta, but you can't do that at Al Jazeera.
You can't.
With players like Abdul Rahman.
Absolutely not. You've got absolutely no
Bandar
chance.
And these guys will punish you.
No. And what I did want to mention was obviously Al Jazeera's manager. He's been over here with us for some time now, and he's really got us to play. Admittedly, yes, he's got the players, but his game plan is excellent. You know, he brings the Dutch style of play over here. He wants possession football. He wants that intense pressing. He wants them to press compactly, a bit like Barcelona. So as soon as they lose the ball, they've got 3 seconds to get that ball back, and it just really shows and puts the weaker teams under real pressure.
I think I predicted Al Jazeera to do well this season. I really do think they're going to do the business.
And I think this is just the start of it now. 3 in a row for them. Yeah. They're looking good.
The confidence is there.
They are. That pressing game is so intense. Teams can't cope with it, especially the weaker teams that just push further and further and further back. They can't get out of their 18-yard box, can't get out of their half, and it's just a tirade on the goal. So they look good.
Yeah, they do. And watch this space, Al Jazeera. I really believe they're going to do something. Okay, thanks for that, Ian. We'll move on to our next highlights, which is Kalba versus Al Nassr, and you're going to enjoy these highlights. Trust me. What a fantastic game. Okay, let's watch. Yeah, this was a
3-3.
Yeah, it was a great game. Okay, I'm ready when you are.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, what do you think to that? I mean, that was an interesting game right up to the last minute, right into injury time. You heard the commentator. I mean, they scored in the 92nd minute, was it?
Kalba soon becoming, or have become, the team that everyone wants to watch.
Yeah.
You know, they're entertaining. They've got some really, really good players. Every time they go on the pitch, they want to win, and it shows.
Yeah, I commentated on their first game of the season. It was a cup game, and I have to say I was impressed with the way they play, the way they set up. They're organised, they're compact. They play to their strengths, and that's what I really liked about Kalba. And they're on the run. They won 3 games now. They haven't lost in 5. They're doing the business, and they played against a top side. To give you an interesting stat, Al Nassr have the best defence in the league, and they've only conceded 3 goals in 7 games. They came up against Kalba, and Kalba scored 3 goals against it. It says a lot for Kalba, who a lot of the naysayers, we could say, predicted they would be in a relegation battle at the moment. They're up with the big boys almost.
I think it's a lot to do with that front two. You look at someone like Shaj, you've got Wellington and Igor, sort of the big player, big focus player. Then you've got Igor pulling all the strings behind, where Kalba have got those 2 big strikers up front who are a handful.
Wanderson and Junior Fernandez. And they're combining really well at the moment. Yeah, and you can see that in the way they play, and they're confident, they're scoring goals. And interestingly, they've got the new signings, the Italian player, and the other player, the new signing, I forget his name, Sam. Come back to me in a minute. They're scoring, they're popping up with an odd goal here and there. And the defence looks good, even saying that they've conceded 3 goals, but Al Nassr could have scored more. They hit the bar a couple of times, but it was a fun game and a lovely game to watch. I think the result was fair because Kalba went for it. They didn't sit down or park the bus. They tried to play football. They tried to play against Al Nassr. We're a good side.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they're solid. The big boys are strong.
They are.
They've got quality players, but they went for it, Kalba. They're at home, and I think they deserved. But Al Nassr should have won.
Yeah,
they should have won. They hit the bar, I think, twice in the game, and they had the better possession, nearly 66% of the possession. But look at Kalba. They had more shots on goal, 21 compared to Nasser's 14 shots. They had 9 shots on target compared to Al Nassr. You can see these, by the way, here. Inside the box, Kalba had 14 shots. Al Nassr only had 11. So they did go for it. They did try, and it's paying off.
I
It
think
really is. A team to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think they're going to win the league.
No.
They're in the quarterfinals of the Cup. We mentioned them the other week. So they're doing well. They're on a good Cup run. This is their first real season in the league. And I really feel that they're a team to watch out for.
Yeah.
They're going to do well.
They're a bit of a surprise package, aren't they? And like you said, there's sort of a no fear from them. They're taking on all the big boys and they're competing against them, which is really good to see.
It is. It's nice to see and it's refreshing as well. And a couple of good goals. What is he called? Impala?
Yeah.
Impala looks great. Watch out for that player's second season. I think he scored 14 goals last season and he's doing well this season. I saw him score 2 wonderful goals in their first game of the season in the Cup. Anyway, let's move on. We're in for a relegation battle match now. Hatta versus Corfacan. You think of Hatta got the new manager. He'll give more information. Corfacan need a result, playing well at the moment with their new manager as well. Let's see what happened. Enjoy the highlights. Okay, Ian, what a cracking game. I keep using that. I love that word, sorry. Being a Yorkshire lad, a cracking game.
And it was a real refreshing game to see. You know, Vladimir, the new manager at Hatta,
What happened, new manager, Ian?
Well,
I mean, they should have won. I mean, we expect him to lose against Al Jazeera away, but at home, relegation battle.
It was close, and they played well. You know, he's come in there. This is only his second game. He hasn't had a lot of time to work with the players, but what he has done he's improved them defensively. He's created a little bit of belief inside them. He's got them playing. He's got them playing good football.
They were 2-0 up.
But it was a massive game of 2 halves.
It was the cliche, the old cliche.
It really was. First half, Hatta were exceptional. Scored 2 brilliant goals. They had countless opportunities to score more, and they were worthy.
Yeah, well, you said last week against Al Jazeera, they a lot of positives to take away, and that first half, I thought, oh wow, goodness me, it's got them.
It's refreshing. Like I said before, Vladimir came in. They looked despondent. They were all over the place. They didn't want to be
the whipping
there.
boys.
They were. And today or last week, they were a completely different team. They were refreshed. They looked ready to go. And it was good to see.
So what happened then, Ian? They were 2-0 up. I mean...
2-0 up going to second half.
Tell us what happened.
I think a slight technical and tactical error, really. They're desperate for points. Vladimir, the coach, has seen that. Instead of continuing playing and maybe leaving himself a little bit open and vulnerable, he decided to park the bus. He's put all 11 players behind the ball.
Tactically, it was a mistake, you think?
I agree, yeah.
Especially getting that early goal.
Yeah, and then unfortunately,
Corfacan
scored an early goal. It was a Hatta-ran goal.
And
suddenly, the whole body language of the team just dropped. Their heads went down. And you could see that they automatically thought, here we go again. We're up against it. And they were. Tactically.
So what you're saying, it's more...
I think more mental... Well, it's a combination of the tactics side and the mental battle.
Good point.
Because they haven't won a game. They're I think it was at 1 point so far this season.
Yeah, the confidence you can see when that
to
goal went in.
And I'm sure they went in half-time thinking, we've just got to, if we hold on to this, we've got it.
Yeah.
And then that early
Instead
goal
of carrying on the way they were playing.
They should have just carried on the way they were doing because they were playing really well. Suddenly the tactical switch, the own goal early on, body language shifted, they changed. And, you know...
Watch the game again. You'll see, like Ian said, the heads went down, the confidence was shattered after that own goal.
And they held out right then. Corfacan scored it in, I think it was in injury time. Yeah. But it was always going to happen. You could see it. You knew, and they all knew it. And that was the bigger problem. But again, positive signs. First half, they were excellent.
They were.
But still a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah.
He's got a lot to do. There's a lot of work. But I think with that first half, if they can get a run, a win, a couple of games, they might stay up. But what do you think? Do you think they'll stay up again?
No.
Personally, I don't. I've seen them play a couple of times.
You know, and
I just can't see it.
No, and there's good teams in Division 1 coming over to take their place. So I think would do themselves a lot better account than what they're doing. It's a shame because they're a nice club. They're well organised. It's well run. Lovely little stadium. Beautiful place.
Right in the mountains. I love going to that stadium.
But they need a miracle. It's going to be them and Ajman right down the bottom with Corfacan and possibly Fujairah as well.
I agree. It's interesting, the league, isn't it, at the moment? The top of the table and the bottom of the table. Anything could happen, but I agree with you. Okay, we're going to move on to our next match, Ian. Another local derby in Abu Dhabi. And I have to say, this lived up to expectation, but you're going to be very surprised. If you don't know the score, you're going to be very surprised. Let's watch the highlights. Banyas, who are struggling at the moment, who had a cracking start to the season against Al Ain, who couple of games on the belt, top players. Let's see what happens. Watch the highlights. All right, Ian, I'm going to give a breakdown. What do you think to that? I mean, surprise. That's what a local derby's about.
That's better.
I mean, it took a little bit to get going, but what a fantastic local derby. And what a surprise, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, Banyas at the start of the season were playing really, really good football, and they had this little bit of a slump, and then
now they're picking it up.
And they sort of crest again on the way up. Which is
they won in the President's Cup, and they won the game before that, and they're the Manchester United to me of this league. They've won the most leagues, the most cups, they're the most famous cup, and then unbeaten that South American side. It was world news. They got to the final against Real Madrid and lost. And they've got the players as well. They really have. But I don't know what happened there.
No.
And like you said, local derby. There was passion. They gave it a go both sides, and Banyas came on top, and that man again. What a signing he's been. He's had a couple of shaky games where if he doesn't score, they seem to be struggling.
No, that's right.
But he did the business, and I've got some of the stats here. So we got João Pedro got 2 goals, and then Suhail Ahmed. I mean, they combined fantastic up front, and obviously Wilson got the goal. But just to give you some of the stats, Alain had 66% of the possession. Again, a bit like Awata, they like to keep the ball, they pass the ball, they're really good at that. Passes, 500 compared to 250. Banyas only had 250 passes. Shots, this is where the difference is. 19 shots, Alain. 15 shots on target, Alain. Only one, can you believe that? Only 1 shot on target. Banyas, this is the difference. 11 shots on target. They both had the same number of shots outside the box and inside the box. So yeah, it was a game we expect to see when it's a local derby. And we were saying about fans not being there. I mean, hopefully there should be sometime this month becoming. I know it's happened in England, but they're allowing, I think it's 30%. You mentioned last week, Ian.
Yeah, that's right.
Capacity. But this didn't need fans. It had everything. It had controversy. It had goals, and it came from João Pedro, who's been fantastic signing.
Yeah, I had a bit of a wobble because he's in my fantasy league team, and I was just debating whether to transfer him in, transfer him out, and I thought, no, I'll keep hold of him, and he's done the business.
Yeah,
So
he's got some good points.
But,
yeah.
But for Alain, though, I think they're obviously looking at the stats. It's a very possession strong, aren't they? They want to pass the ball around the back.
They just couldn't get the goals in. But they didn't have the shooting boots on, didn't they? And I don't understand that. They should. And then they lost to Iceman in the cup, in the President's Cup, and they're playing Iceman at home tonight. And they need to do something. Yeah. They need to bounce back. Alain are a top team. They're one of the best, and they should be up there. And they was on a nice little run, but this has really knocked them back down. And it's they've opened up a little bit of a gap.
They just seem to be struggling in that final third, don't they?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're keeping hold of the ball. The possession stats are absolutely superb, but it's that final third they're struggling to break teams down, and they need to. And
Banyas, as we know, they can score goals.
Yeah.
And they have been. I mean, they had that little bit of a wobble, as you said, but they can score. Let's see what Alain can do against the whipping boys, Iceman. I expect Alain will do the business, and they need to. They need to come back to keep within that top 4 to put pressure on the top teams to have a chance of winning the league. All right. So let's move on to our next game, Ian. I think it's the last one for you, is it?
Yep, Sharjah versus Shabab Al Ahly.
You've had the lucky ones today in the relegation battle. Now the battling for the title. These are 2 favourites to take the lead. We're going to watch Sharjah versus Shabab Al Ahly, but I have to say it didn't live up to expectation. But let's not talk about it anymore. Let's look at the highlights, watch them, and then Ian will give us a breakdown. Okay, yeah, again, this wasn't... I was disappointed. I expected more. It was an okay game.
Yeah, it was watchable, it was fine. But with the two big teams that are going for the league, Sharjah still obviously undefeated. But the last couple of weeks, they've not been the usual Sharjah.
No,
just
they
struggled
6 games they won, and then they went on a 2-game draw. Is this the 3rd game they've drawn now?
Third game, and again it was another penalty. They're the masters of getting penalties, and so Wellington up front have done exactly the same again. This long ball's been played inside the the fullback who should have been tighter. He's run through. Keeper's come steaming out. He's just slowed his run a little bit. Keeper's come through. It was a definite penalty.
Yeah, I saw.
But it's a similar to one he did probably 2 or 3
Why
weeks
are teams
ago.
preparing for this? I mean, wouldn't you think the manager said, "Look, this is a team that'll
I don't know. And
watch yourselves."
Yeah, they're just again, it's a formation, a tactical error. The fullback's got too wide. They played the ball in between him and the centre back, and it's too
It was
easy.
a lovely ball.
It was a really good ball. And then of course Igor steps up and puts the penalty away, and it's no problem.
Yeah.
But like you said, they didn't give up. They've come back. They've worked hard, and they got their deserved goal from it. And actually, it was uncustomed for Sharjah. It was a defensive mistake. The ball got crossed in. They didn't clear their lines. They didn't clear it out. It fell to one of their Shabab Ali players who had a lovely touch out and then struck with his left foot, and it was a good goal. So Sharjah, well, I would say are beatable, but they're not at the moment. But they're not looking their old self.
No, they're not.
And they are relying on this penalty at the moment
Yeah.
to get them through. I think that need to check the stats, but they've had at least 4 penalties so far this season.
No, I think they've had 5. I was looking. I think it was 5 here.
In 8 games?
Yeah,
which is unbelievable.
Yeah, they need to do something, and it can swing either way, I think.
Okay, but it's good for the rest of the league because they're not running away with it at the moment.
And I think it was a result. I think they'll both be happy with that result. Neither wanted to lose.
No,
because if they lost, I think it would have put some.
Yeah, and after Sharjah's last couple of games where they haven't been on form, it's still a point, and they're still doing enough to.
But they're grinding out some results.
Exactly.
I think that's the
sign of
the main
team,
thing,
isn't it?
All right, what we're going to do now, Ian, let's have a look at the tables to finish off with before we go any further. So we've got the tables. Sharjah, they're still on top. Again, you can see the table here. Sharjah still on, played 8, won 6, drawn 2. And then we got Al Jazeera, who are slowly moving up the table. They're my prediction for this season. Al Nassr are just behind on the same number of points. So we can see Sharjah on 20 points, Al Jazeera on 17, Al Nassr on 17. I mean, that looks a surprise. Look, Al Ain are 4th, Al Wahda 5th, and Shabab Al Athli were running away with it last season. What's happened? I mean, they brought in the new manager, which was a shock to me.
Yeah.
And this new manager's is just not doing the business to me. They're not playing like they did. And we can see Kalber up there. What about the bottom of the table, Ian? We can see, what do you think? We've got Khor Khan 11th, Fajira 12th, Ajman 13, Hatta 14. What do you think? Give me your predictions. I'm going for Al Jazeera to win, or Al Nassr.
Well, I'm still going to go Sharjah.
We've just had a small break, a toilet break, you could say. I've changed my shirt, and we're back. So what we're going to do now in the last few minutes is talk about the position of the teams in the table. As you can see, it's here. So Ian, top of the table, very interesting.
Very interesting. The Sharjah juggernaut are still rolling.
Yeah.
They've played 9, won 7, drawn 2, still undefeated.
They had that wobble.
They did.
But they still grinded out that result.
The last 2-3 games they've not played particularly well. But like you said, they've ground out the results. They're still there. They've been relying on penalties. They're relying on Igor at the moment. But they're doing the business and they look good.
Anybody else? Yeah, Al Jazeera.
My team sneaking up.
Prediction.
They've got some of the best players in the league, and they're just starting to get it together. The manager is playing some really, really good high pressing football. Puts the opposition under pressure straight away. They look to win the ball back within sort of 4 seconds. Not giving teams to letting teams settle.
And they've got them goal scorers.
Yeah, and they know how to put the ball in the back of the net, and that makes a difference.
And what about Al Nassr though? Best defence.
Best defence in the league, yeah, they are. They're very well organised. They're well drilled. Going forward, they're okay. Yeah. They haven't got the quality that Sharjah have got or Al Jazeera have got. Yeah.
But it's interesting because when you think of last season, it was Shabab Al Athli and it was Al Wassel, but now it's very different.
Yeah,
maybe to do with COVID.
Athli, is I think the lack of consistency. They're up and down. You don't know what team's going to turn up on the day. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's right. And interesting, Kalber up there in the mix of the surprise of the season.
Yeah,
Kalber.
Our dark horse Kalber. I think they're in 4th now and playing some really good football.
Yeah,
like we mentioned, the last couple of weeks they've got the 2 guys up front, the 2 big players up front. Of course, a lot of handballs and look good.
I saw them the first game of the season in the cup. You know what? They played against Al Jazeera, even though it was a B team, Ian. They played really, really well organised, strong, and 2 good players up the front. Watch for Kalber.
Yeah,
I think they'll really do good.
Honestly, if I'm being honest, I think I can see them tailing off as the season goes on and probably finish around sort of 7th or 8th, but I think they would be happy with that.
What do you think of, maybe they could do a Leicester?
Yeah, it would be
Maybe
nice,
we
wouldn't
could-
it? It
yeah,
would be
it would be.
nice if it was
Be
sent
different.
shockwaves through the league if we could have someone different winning it. But I think, Sharjah.
What about Sharjah being the Immortals this season?
No,
Not going to happen.
I don't think so. I think Al Jazeera are looking good. I think Al Jazeera, Sharjah
And Nasser.
are going to be the three.
Yeah,
There or thereabouts.
I agree with that. Bottom of the table. I mean, we talked about Hatter gaining a new manager, but they're still winless. They're still bottom of the table. They're still yet to win, and they've only drawn one game and lost all the other games. And so they look doomed for me, unless Vladimir can really turn it round.
Yeah.
I mean, they're at home to Kofakan.
Yeah.
They have to win that one. It's they really have to win and get their season going. If
They do.
anything,
There were, we talked about the game earlier on. There were some positives. That first half, they played really well and created chances, scored 2 goals.
there's something there, isn't it?
There is, but I don't quite think there's enough.
I can't see a Najman. I mean, to me, the manager, the Egyptian Ayman, I think he's the next casualty to me. He's got to be. I mean, they're not doing anything. 2 points.
Yeah.
They need to, but they're winning the President's Cup.
Yeah.
Maybe I think you were saying that might give him 2 games.
Might give him a couple of games to try and work some magic. They've got Boubacar Tawali up front, who looks a useful striker, but there's not else around him to help him out.
No, that midfield he lacks quality. They just don't know how to. That combination, pass, play, support. They just don't know how to do that. So them two, to me, to Ian and I, we believe they're the two that are going to go down. Then we've got the 2 left, Kofagan, Fujairah. What do you think? I'm going for Fujairah. Yeah. I like Kofakan. They've got the new manager's been brought in, his experience here in the UAE, in the Middle East. I think he will keep them up. I think Fujairah, sadly, to me. What do you think, Ian? Fujairah, Kofakan there.
I think Kofakan look more of a team. They seem to be gelling a little bit better than Fujairah. And I think that's going to be a big thing. If they can stick together, work hard as a unit, they should be okay. Whereas Fujairah, I think, a little bit disjointed at the moment. They don't seem to be knowing who should be doing what or who should be in what position, and the style of play, which I think we talked about in this episode or the episode before. They want to play the ball out from the back, which is great. They want to play passing football, possession football, but I don't think they've got the quality to do that, which is going to cause problems.
Okay, good. Look, the things we say, it's just our opinion. If you've got anything to say, put it in the comments. Let us know. If you want us to talk about something, we're here for you. We're still learning a lot about the league, Ian, and Robert is as well when he's here next week. Last week we had an interview with an agent. If you want to watch episode 5, about an agent, 15 years experience, has some interesting things to say. Ian's actually set the questions for him. Have a look at that. But please, comment. Anything else, Ian?
No, that's it. Exactly. Just want to reiterate what Tony's saying. Just make sure you comment, you like, you share. And if there is anything you want to see from us, let us know. We're looking now, hopefully, as restrictions release, that we can get into different football clubs. We can start speaking to players and managers. Yeah. So if there's anyone in particular you want us to speak to, just let us know and we will do our very best. Yeah, and just finally, watch this space. We have got some really good things coming. We're going to have some extra content and hopefully interview some high-profile players and get their feedback on what they think of the league, why they came here, what do they think about playing in this particular league. And if you want to ask them any questions, please let us know. And remember, ring the bell. We're doing this voluntary. We just want to promote the league here, the football here. We think it's good. We think it's going places, and there's some really good players coming through. We spoke about Ali Salah, the young Al Wasl player. Yeah. He looks very, very good, and many others. Okay. All right. I haven't got anything else to say. No. Robert says hi. I'll see you next week. That's it. Bye from us. Ma salama. Ma salama.